Inside the brightly lit hotel lobby, the police cordoned off. The boy in the black coat spoke lazily. "You are the murderer, Yuakazan." The woman who was comforted in a low voice by her friend suddenly froze, and she didn't refute, but the friend who comforted her couldn't stand. "You brat, what are you talking about? How could Yuaki be a murderer? She's so kind. Jealousy is really a terrible thing, are you right? Yuakazan." The boy in black ignored the accusation of the other party, just sighed and said with a look of compassion. "Boyfriends who gradually lose their love, focus more on friends who are cheerful and excellent, and are gradually attracted to them. This trip can be considered as the last trip before we break up. That gentleman, he should be preparing to officially break up with Miss Yuaki after the tour." Unfortunately, Miss Yuaki knew about it in advance and was prepared to make him unable to say it. After all, dead people don't cheat and don't break up, do they? It was a young man who looked like he was 14 or 15 years old. He still had baby fat on his face, slightly curly black hair, fair skin, a right eye wrapped in bandages, and a kite-colored left pupil. The black coat and suit were a little loose on him. He stood lazily, watching the found murderer kneeling on the ground incapacitated and crying bitterly. "It's so boring," he said, ready to turn around and leave. The sharp-eyed police quickly stepped forward to stop him. "What's this little brother's name?" The black-haired boy blinked, and a dark streamer seemed to pass through the eyes of the kite. Tsushima Shuji, my name." He said this with a smile on his face. Ignoring the police officer who complimented him, he turned and left, waving his back to him. Standing at the door, he took out his mobile phone and tapped a few times. "Come pick me up, Ka." Half a minute later, I received a reply. "Address Gin." "Address Ka." The man sitting in the co-pilot exhaled and snorted coldly, dropping the cigarette butt. "Vodka, go to the Cornflower Hotel." "Yes, sir." Vodka worked tirelessly to start the car. "Brother, is there any mission?" He couldn't help but ask. After all, he suddenly proposed to go to the hotel during the day, which is really not like the style of Brother Jin. "Mission? Humph." The silver-haired man smiled inexplicably. "Just to pick up a troublesome kid." Vodka is in shock. Even the eldest brother Jin finds it troublesome. How troublesome must he be? And many more. Speaking of troublesome brats. "Is Ka back?" Vodka asked in an inexplicable state of mind. "That's right, it's that troublesome kid." Jinju simply admitted his guess. "What? If it is Cow, then Vodka is not surprising at all. After all, Ka's troubles, he also witnessed with his own eyes. Thinking of the fact that the other party committed suicide 3 times a day on average, and the ginseng brother who had to protect the other party from letting the other party really die. Vodka drove silently. "Brother Jin, you are too difficult." Standing at the door of the hotel for more than 10 minutes, a black Porsche 356A stopped in front of him. He didn't care, he stretched out his hand and opened the rear door and sat on it. "Yo, long time no see, Jin. I'm relieved to see that your hair is fine. After all, there are so many undercover agents waiting for you to catch me. I'm still worried that you will be bald." The boy in the back seat raised his right hand in high spirits to speak, and said irritating words in a cheerful and friendly tone. "Shut up, Ka." A gun was aimed at the boy in the back seat. "Hey? You finally thought about it, are you willing to send me to death yourself?" The boy was not afraid at all, and even moved closer to the muzzle of the gun, putting his head against the muzzle. "As long as I press this lightly, my wish can be fulfilled." The boy smiled contentedly and eagerly. "Please, let me wake up from this rotten world." He said so, with a gentle smile on his face, the only kite-colored eyes showing were dead. "You lunatic!" Jinju withdrew the gun, meaning he didn't know what to say. "It's not to die for the boss to let you back, you have to serve the organization well, Ka." The silver-haired man said so. The boy lowered his eyes regretfully, staring blankly at the passing scenery outside the window. 90% fit of Dazai's character design. Come on, host. Just 10%. You can start a new vest. As if he didn't hear anything, the boy turned to ask the man. Who is my partner? Jin ignored him. Instead, Vodka smiled and answered his question. That gentleman means, let you choose for yourself. Let me choose? Can anyone? Things that cannot be chosen will not appear in front of you. This time, it was Jin. How interesting. Dazai Osamu thought while holding his cheek. Has my accommodation been arranged? He asked as if he had remembered something. It's arranged, it's an apartment, and the security measures are good. But now, let's try your ability first. After so many years outside, I don't know if you have improved. Vodka stopped at the entrance of a research institute. Hey? My father really likes the research institute. Dazai Osamu said boringly. Shut up and follow. Jin ignored the boy's words and walked straight ahead. There was no researcher in sight of the corridor they walked, and at the end of the corridor was an unremarkable elevator. After the detection of fingerprints and iris, the elevator that had only -1 quietly added the options of -2 and -3. Jin, Alavel permission, allowed to enter. Kahor, Alavel authority, allow entry. Vodka, Alavel clearance, entry is allowed. Welcome back to the training ground. As the elevator opened, the mechanical female voice said without emotion. In this training place full of futuristic technology, people who come and go are always code-named members of the organization. Seeing Jin and Vodka coming back with a teenager who seems to be underage, there is no superfluous expression, just sneaking. He glanced at it for a second, then turned his head and made a look of indifference. After all, after watching it for a long time, when Jinju suspected that they were undercover, he directly held a gun to their foreheads, shot them directly if they disagreed, and the organization would not say anything. Go, let me see how your strength is. M200, L115A3. The boy casually reached out and stroked the rows of guns, knowing the data performance of all the guns by heart. Then I randomly chose an SVD and stood on the training platform. It's the forehead again. Jin looked at the real-time record with an inexplicable meaning. Each training data will be recorded, including the location and number of shots fired by the data characters. In the record of Osamu Dazai's achievements shown above, the number of shots in the Tianling cover of the forehead far exceeds that of the heart and other parts. Forehead, 79 heart, 10 limbs, 11 latest record 1,500 yards. Well, there's no way, after all, some people's hearts might grow elsewhere. The black-clothed boy who finished the test said slowly. Host, Osamu Dazai's marksmanship is not so good. Oh, see it. The system wailed. No, this is not Fumino's crew. Why can't Osamu Dazai, who has no disqualification in the world, be full of marksmanship and fighting? This is Osamu Dazai, my rude science. The boy retorted in his heart. That's right. Jin sent an admiring expression. Although Kaa has a lot of quirks, this prudent approach is much better than organizing other trash. Ah, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Hurry up and take me home, the canned crab meat I bought has arrived home. Dazai Osamu lay on the ground and said weakly. Jin. Get up. Calm down, keep calm, Kaa is the adopted son of that lord. Cow is very useful. Let's go, I'll take you back. Jin pressed down the hand that wanted to draw a gun. Great. Boss has made an appointment with a psychiatrist for you, remember to see it. Jin taking a casual glance at the information on the phone, the boy closed the phone without hesitation. Tsushima Shoji and Dazai Osamu are obviously the same person. Why do you say I have a split personality? The boy muttered while lying on the sofa. He now lives in a high-end apartment provided by his father, which is expensive, luxuriously decorated and spacious. Standing on the floor-to-ceiling windows, you can look down at the surrounding buildings and crowds. The refrigerator is also full of canned crab meat, and I have to say that his father is quite qualified in this regard. Tsushima Shoji is a writer, Fumino Dazai is a former mafia member, and you, Ryu Dazai, is a member of the Black Organization. These are not two anymore, you are clearly three. The system babbles. Tsushima Shoji fell silent. He carefully recalled the reasons why he was regarded as a person with a split personality. Back then, when he was still a college student in his prime, as an otaku who was a solo mother, he was addicted to two-dimensional animation and figurines. When he was in college, he joined the animation club without hesitation. With his handsome appearance and 186 figure, there is no pressure on COS to play the role of a two-dimensional male god. In fact, he also cosplayed 180 SIXS Levi and Zhong Yuan's Hong Gaio. Of course, the role that makes him the ace of the club is the leader of the DK Gojo Satoru and the If line. Every time he appears at the comic exhibition, he will attract countless fans and sisters to come to ask for a photo. On that day, he was wearing the clothes of Chief Zay, and was about to leave the changing room of the Comic-Con, but as soon as he walked out of the changing room, he found that his vision had dropped out of nowhere, and the surrounding area was not the Comic-Con venue he was familiar with. The clothes on her body have also changed into a kindergarten style, and she also wears a little yellow hat. However, the clothes of the leader of his COS came with him, and from the obvious COS clothing texture to the high-definition texture visible to the naked eye. And the environment he was in at the moment was a burning villa. There were fires all around, with thick black smoke. He hugged the leader Zay's clothes he bought with money, walked a few steps with short legs, and saw two dead bodies. The look and shape of looking up at the starry sky instantly shocked him, who had never seen a dead person so close. So much so that he forgot to react for a while, and when he reacted, he even wanted to reach out to help the two dead temporary roommates close their eyes. Just when his outstretched hand touched the body, a team of police rushed in, shouting that there were still children here, and carried him out without saying a word. Of course, because he held onto the leader Zay's clothes and didn't let go, the clothes survived. Being carried by the police and running out, he was still thinking that he could close his eyes to the two looking up at the starry sky, so he looked at the smoking villa reluctantly. Just as he was carried into the police car by the police, a strange voice sounded in his mind again. "Hello host, I detected your love for COS, the COS system has been successfully bound with you next. Please give full play to your COS talents." So his mind was full of what is this, I'm wearing it, I'm getting smaller. But to the police outside, the cute-looking black-haired boy dazedly hugged the adult's coat, staring blankly at the place where there was nothing. Obviously, she was frightened by seeing her parents die. Little boy, little boy. After recovering, he turned his head and saw a face close to him, and moved back uncomfortably. "What's your name?" the policeman asked with a smile. "I am." "Hey? What am I called?" Everything about his identity in his memory seemed to become blurred, and the pictures about his friends became like yellowed scrolls. Tsushima Shoji, my name." "Hey? Tsushima Shoji, who is it?" "It's Osamu Dazai's original name, host." System reminder. So, Shoji Tsushima is the original name of Osamu Dazai, that is to say. Osamu Dazai is me too. I see. Tsushima Shoji realized. No. Host, you are only in COS Dazai Osamu. You wake up. The system screamed. The young boy shook his head, and only then did he feel that the dazed memory in his mind had cleared up a little, and his thinking had become clearer. As well as he looked at the little policeman just now, from his eyes and gestures, the words that sounded like a heartbeat sounded in his ears. "This child, are you all right?" "Yes, I'm afraid I've seen such a scene with my own eyes." He tilted his head ignorantly and looked at the policeman with kite-colored eyes. Is this big brother worried that I'll be frightened by seeing such a scene? It's okay, I'm not afraid. He also showed a pure and innocent smile. The policeman's attitude changed immediately. This child, what's going on? Is it too sensitive? How do you know what I think? Isn't it easy to see through at a glance? Big brother's thoughts. He blinked in confusion. This child, can he read people's hearts? The policeman thought about it, and smiled again at random, feeling that he was thinking too much. Just a somewhat sensitive child. Wait here, eldest brother, go and contact your relatives, they will take you home. The little policeman touched the boy's head. The person who was immersed in COS a second ago lost all expressions when the policeman's back disappeared in front of him. Why did I go to Conan world, and I got into the game at the beginning? He was expressionless on the surface, but he was grumpy inside. Maybe, because of COS? The system cautiously said. This is really an irrefutable reason. Then where do my relatives come from now? He suddenly appeared in this world after a big change. Where did he come from? It's not certain whether there is a person like him in the population table. Don't worry, I have arranged everything for the host. The system is full of confidence. The next second, a gentle-looking man, accompanied by a policeman, pushed the door open, claiming to be the younger brother of the deceased couple in the villa, and successfully picked up Shoji Tsushima. Then he came to a villa and joined the two figures. Black clothes, top hat, silver hair. It's you. Winery model worker. Strong man, square face. It's you. Exclusive driver brother vodka. To be able to meet these two directly, the man beside him is not ordinary, right? Could it be the wine who has not yet appeared? Tsushima Shoji thought so. The next second, he saw the man tear off a layer of skin with his hair and face, showing blonde hair, and a clear female face. Oh, Belmod, it was you. Is this kid the child of those two people? The model worker said. Of course, the boss asks you to take him with you first to see if you have any talent, Belmod said. Everyone present knows that the talent here refers to the talent that joins the organization. If there is, he will naturally become a member of the organization. If not, he may be going to reunite with his dead family. Tisk. Jin impatiently lit a cigarette. But he didn't say anything. He is a loyal boss and won't refute the other party's orders. Even if it is such a boring thing as letting him take a child. So Shoji Tsushima lived a miserable life, crossed out. Jin is an unqualified guardian. He would pull out a gun in front of a child, smash someone else's head with a blank face, so that the other person's blood splattered on Shoji Tsushima's face. When she was in a bad mood, she would grab Shoji Tsushima's temple, not caring if the other party was a child. Even when Shoji Tsushima was disobedient, he shot directly, and the bullet swiped through Shoji Tsushima's face, leaving a wound. Of course, after that shot, Jin confirmed that Shoji Tsushima had the talent to join the organization. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. The boy who wrapped a bandage on his left cheek stared blankly at him, his viscous and undisguised malice clearly shown. The next second, the boy held the gun that came from nowhere and aimed it at the Jin. The bullet slid across Jin's face without hesitation, leaving a wound in the same location. Boy, it's not bad. The man wiped the blood dripping from his face and said with a tone of malice and appreciation. After that, Jin started taking Shoji Tsushima on missions. The young Shoji Tsushima did not hesitate to start, and even being a child brought a lot of convenience to their mission. Only occasionally he would refute the other party when Jin called him Tsushima Shoji, saying that his name was Dazai Osamu. After being brought with Jin for 2 years, the person who called to meet Shoji Tsushima. So the 5-year-old Tsushima Shoji went to the United States and became the child raised by that gentleman. Not long after, he even had his own code name Kaor. Black wine. Known as the wine of mass in the church, it was also the favorite wine of Tsar Bill the Great. Kaor Noir is a soil, an alchemical achievement between grapes and humans. In the world, only the Malbec of the Lot Valley can give the wine such depth. Its vitality and rich tannins are the keys to its eternal youth. Thinking of this, Shoji Tsushima sighed and took back his phone, but he slowly returned the news of the Jin. I know Kaor. On the other side, Jinju saw that the person who could not read it finally replied to the text message, and put down the gun with a sneer. Ignoring the corpse lying on the ground, he turned and left. A sensible kid. You can't die alone. The two of you can die in love, sacrificing love, walking on the street, humming incomprehensible lyrics. The boy walked briskly through the crowd, ignoring the gazes around him because of his singing. When passing a tree, he stopped. It's really a hard-working tree, he praised. Look at what it looks like, how suitable for suicide. The weather is sunny today, and it's a good day for suicide, he said, taking out the white belt from his body. Hanging on a tree, tied in a knot. Then he jumped and put his neck in. Feeling the diminishing air and the heavier body, he closed his eyes. Then when he opened his eyes, he woke up in the hospital bed. Shoji Tsushima. Ah, you're awake. The doctor holding the record saw him and said. What can't you think of to hang yourself at a young age? You're still young, and you'll pass. The more mature doctor enlightened the other party. Shoji Tsushima. You're right, I suddenly thought about it. May I ask, which kind person saved me? I don't know. That kind person left after sending you to the hospital. The doctor shook his head. It's a pity, I still want to be fine, thank you for that kind person. Tsushima Shoji gritted his teeth. Doctor. Seriously, boy? You don't look like you want to thank each other well. I always feel that you are going to find dark shark in the next second. Well, is Dr. Kazuto Kyusuk here now? Ah, Dr. Kazuto is here, how did you know? Because I have an appointment. As for how to know that this is the Miwayashi hospital, the doctor must have a famous brand on his clothes. The boy complained boringly and jumped out of the hospital bed. Well, goodbye, Dr. Ninzu. He turned his back to the doctor and waved. Ah, I didn't plan to see the doctor at first, but it ended up being sent. Well, they all came. This is fate. So Kazuto Kyusuk welcomed his special patient. Good afternoon, Dr. Kazuto. The black-haired boy had a delicate appearance and a well-behaved sitting posture. He greeted him like a primary school student. Good afternoon, Tsushima-kun. It didn't seem as difficult to deal with as I said before. It's not Tsushima-kun, it's Dazai-kun, Dazaiji. The boy named Shoji Tsushima refuted his title seriously. Ah, it seems a little difficult. Kazuto Kyusuk has some headaches. The boy in front of him who claimed to be Osamu Dazai was as keen as if he had the ability to read people's hearts. No matter what he thought, he was stopped by the other party. Even the roles were switched unknowingly. Hey, why does the doctor think I'm a patient? The doctor himself has it, too, the other one. He said and suddenly approached the serious doctor. This little devil. Why do you say that, Dazai-kun? Kazuto Kyusuk closed the medical records and asked back. Because I saw the other self hidden in your heart, the doctor, and he said he will come out sooner or later. The black-haired boy raised the corners of his mouth, his tone was light, but his kite-colored eyes stared at the doctor darkly. Just kidding. When the other party was about to make a flustered expression, he smiled again. This is not funny at all, Dazai-kun. Kazuto Kyusuk said seriously. Hasn't Dazai-kun been in contact with his peers much? Let's learn language arts. Have more contact with your classmates and friends. Learn to be a human being. The doctor said with a smile. Let's go. Under the doctor's eyes, the boy left the hospital briskly. At the moment when the opponent's back completely disappeared, Kazuto Kyosuke silently sent the medical record to the opponent's guardian. At the same time, Jin, who received medical records, also received a call from Osamu Dazai. "Change me a doctor," the young man on the other end of the phone said in a lazy tone. "Reason?" Jinju's tone was cold. Dazai Osamu knew that if it was self-willed for no reason, Jin would not hesitate to warn him with a gun when they met. "He will become a murderer," Dazai said straightly. "Got it." He still had confidence in Osamu Dazai's eyesight, and the other party hung up the phone as soon as he spoke. "Hey!" Jinju looked at the medical record and snorted coldly. His eyes stopped for a while on the sentence "the patient is logically clear and organized, or has a high-functioning antisocial personality." He turned around and sent the medical records to the boss abroad. High-functioning antisocial? The black-clothed organization wasn't a glorious organization in the first place, and a small problem like Dazai's rule was not a problem at all in Jinju's view. With that in mind, he sent a message to Osamu Dazai. "Come to Darobuka Paradise tomorrow." Jin unexpectedly, the opposite party actually responded to the text message in seconds. "Are you going to take me to the paradise?" Kaoru Tsushima Shuji, who was shopping at the mall, picked up a bag of dog food, looked at it, and threw it into the shopping cart. When he saw the message he had read on his phone, but there was no reply, he put away the phone. "Tisk, what a boring adult." As he said that, he swept away the canned crab meat on the shelf. After adding money to let the mall send things directly to the apartment, Tsushima Shuji came to one of the organization's strongholds. Lupin Bar. This bar was still a gift from his adoptive father after he mentioned it. Although minors cannot enter the bar, but, isn't it a basic operation to have 4 or 5 false certificates? Even if the police came to investigate, he wouldn't panic. There were scattered people sitting inside the dimly lit bar, almost all dressed in black, some were familiar, some were unfamiliar. Their eyes were fixed on the boy who seemed to have entered here by mistake. Gin and vodka sat at the bar. So the people around looked at the young man as if he was stunned and went straight to the Jin. "You know, even within the organization, Jin is a well-known killer." "Yo, Jin, come pick me up tomorrow please, please. Taxis are very expensive." The boy sat beside Jinju and opened his mouth on the bar. "Isn't your pocket money enough?" Not only did Jinju not kill the other party with a single shot, but he also seemed to chat happily. "Bring me a glass of Malbec with detergent." The boy didn't answer his question, instead he ordered an order with the bartender. "Sorry guest, we don't have this kind of thing here," the bartender said helplessly. "Give him a glass of hot milk," Jin said. "Okay." The bar hurriedly responded. The boy who finally sat up lay down on the bar again. "Ah, on my way home today, I saw a stream that is especially suitable for suicide, so I went into the water. It turned out that when I floated ashore, I found out that my wallet was missing. Please help me make it up." He wanted to jump off his chair and run away. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Drink. Jin skillfully grabbed the boy's collar and pressed him back to the chair. His eyes indicated the inappropriate milk on the bar. Seeing that the boy closed his eyes, took the milk with a heavy face, and drank it all in one go, the Jin released the other's hand and lit a cigarette after watching the other party run away impatiently. "This is the boss's mission. That kid's brain is the treasure of our organization, you have to protect him," the gentleman said. "Therefore, it is necessary to take care of the nutritional balance of the other party to ensure that there is enough nourishment for the brain. Also, don't smoke in front of the other party to prevent second-hand smoke from affecting the other party. Otherwise, who would be willing to take care of troublesome brats? When I was a child, I was troublesome but still obedient, but now I am troublesome and disobedient. Brother, is K.R. going to do a mission with us tomorrow?" Vodka watched the boy leave before he dared to speak. For some reason, he was a little afraid of Ka. There is a saying in the organization, if you offend the Jin, you may die, but if you offend the Kaor, you will die. Since the appearance of Kaor, the absinthe, which was originally favored by boss, has to shy away from the other side. He is also the only member who calls boss father. No, he doesn't have to do a task. Jin took a glass of Malbec. The boss asked me to take him to play. He drank the wine in the glass. Vodka fell silent. Did the boss really ask the eldest brother to take care of the children? I have to do another task and I have to take a child. Brother, you are so miserable. Tsushima Shoji woke up very early today. Start changing clothes early. Black suit and black coat. The adoptive father later gave him many black suits and coats of the same style, including the apartment where he lives now, and the wardrobes are also custom-made coats and suits according to his figure. And a cabinet of snow-white bandages. He slowly wrapped a bandage on his left eye, thought about it, and put on a red scarf. Looking at the unfamiliar yet familiar face in the mirror, he said hello. Hello, Osamu Dazai. His facial features are his own. It's just that the wig and the beauty contact lenses are completely integrated and become real when they travel through it, just like COS never existed, and he has always looked like this. Today is a big day. It's the day when high school detective Kudo Shinichi is about to transform into the death of elementary school student Conan Edogawa. It was also the day when Jin and Vodka rode on a roller coaster. How could he be absent from such a classic scene? He started waiting in the morning, and waited, and finally waited until the phone turned on. Go downstairs. Jin is the consistent tone of Jin. Holding the phone, he dashed downstairs. When he saw a Porsche 356A parked in front of the apartment, he did not hesitate to open the rear door and sit on it. I haven't seen you all night, I miss you very much, Jin, he greeted sweetly. Shut up, Ka. Vodka, drive. You're very excited today, why? Jinju asked, looking at the young man who kept making small movements since he got in the car. Because, this is the first time I go to an amusement park with Jin, Huiaoren said as soon as he opened his mouth. It's a lie. Jinju sneered, ignoring the chattering rebuttals of the young man in the back seat. Then, I'll go around first, and then the roller coasters will gather. As soon as they arrived at the amusement park, the teenager got out of the car on his own, leaving them only one sentence. Brother, did you tell Cow to take a roller coaster? Vodka asked blankly. No. Don't underestimate that kid's brain. That's the brain that even the boss thinks it's a treasure. Jin had no doubt that when Osamu Dazai saw himself and the vodka, he guessed their purpose today. Maybe earlier, when he and the other party said they wanted to. You might know it when you come to an amusement park. There are so many people. Dazai Osamu said blankly. Bang! Osamu Dazai felt that his waist was hit by someone. It hurts. Well, there were two knives hanging from his waist. Ayami, are you all right? The two boys comforted the girl who cried out in pain. Host. It's the boy detective team. The system begins to bubble. It's okay, little sister. The boy in black, with a bandage on his left eye and a red scarf bent down, stretched out his left hand, which was also wrapped in a bandage, and lightly touched the girl's forehead. Gentle voice and gentle actions. Just as Yoshida Ayami was about to say that, she looked up and said it was okay. She met his eyes. Empty kite eyes. And the sad eyes that seemed to be crying silently. It's fine, just be careful, he said. Hey, you and Ta, Mitsuhiko. Do you think this big brother looks very sad? Looking at the back of his leaving, Yoshida Ayami asked the little friends beside her. He must have had something unhappy just now. You can't mention other people's unhappy experiences. Let's go on a roller coaster. 1 second I met a member of the future youth detective team, and the next I turned around and saw Mao Lilan with hair and her childhood sweetheart, Kudo Shinichi. Well, it looks like we're about to fast forward to the necklace murder case. Tsushima Shoji thought so, and walked slowly behind them towards the position of the roller coaster. When he saw two men in black clothes, he turned his eyes away, showing an attitude of ignorance. Just when I saw the combination of 3 women and 1 man, I took a second look with great interest. After all, among these 4 people, one is about to become a dead man, and the other is about to become a prisoner. Especially the necklace the prisoner was wearing attracted his attention. I want to try to see if I can see the difference. As for the dog food plot of the deceased man and his girlfriend kissing affectionately, it's understandable, after all, it's the last time before dying. His seat was in the front, vodka and gin sat in the last row, and by the way, the dead sat in front of them. Everyone took their seats. Fate begins to move forward. The scene was once very bloody. The head that flew away, the blood sprayed. It is a plot that must play holy light mosaic, otherwise it will not pass the trial. Ah, the deceased's girlfriend burst into tears and found a knife from her bag. Kr, you go find the culprit and let us leave quickly. Jin looking at the text message on the mobile phone, Shoji Tsushima looked up at the silver-haired man behind him, and met his impatient gaze. Ah, this look. I'm afraid Jinju wants to draw a gun and kill all the others on the spot, so as not to waste his time. The murderer is not Miss Aiko, but you. The boy in black and red scarf walked out of the crowd. Is what you said true, boy? Officer Mumu asked with a serious expression. How can you talk nonsense? It's obviously the knife you found in Aiko's bag, right? The woman in blue couldn't believe it. On a roller coaster, using such a knife to cut off a person's head, let alone Miss Aiko, even I can't do it. The young man spoke in admiration or sarcasm. The only exposed kite-colored right eye was filled with indifference. Miss Xiao Tong, where did the necklace you wore on your neck go? During the crowd's argument, the boy in black said expressionlessly. That's the necklace your ex-boyfriend gave you, and that ex-boyfriend, I think, is Miss Aiko's boyfriend, the deceased Mr. Kishida. Your murder tool should still be left in the tunnel. Having said this, he changed his words when he saw the hurried figure. Now that your murder tool has also been found, do you still need to argue? His eyes were fixed on Kudo Shinichi. After searching for a physical evidence, he found that the case had been solved by Kudo Shinichi. Damn it, I was pretended to be by this guy. He's right, the murderer is you, this is the physical evidence I found. Kudo Shinichi said, and took out a transparent bag with iron claws and pearls. The murderer has been found, we can leave now. Jin, who was waiting impatiently, spoke again. The cold killing intent in his eyes was detected by the keen Kudo Shinichi. And Shoji Tsushima, who showed good reasoning ability and dressed very similar to the other two, was also carefully looked at by him. And the woman who was exposed to the murder method and motive finally couldn't help but fell to her knees and burst into tears. Narrates his thoughts on why he wants to kill. Hello, I'm Kudo Shinichi. Kudo Shinichi, who was very interested in the other party's reasoning ability, introduced himself. She's more Island. Hello, my name is Mao Lilan, and I'm Xinyi's childhood sweetheart. I know you, a famous high school detective. The boy in black said with a smile. The first time we met, Shoji in Shimo Tsushima. I said your reasoning ability isn't bad. By the way, do you know the other two in black? Kudo Shinichi said familiarly. The two gentlemen in black? I'm sorry, but I don't know each other. Tsushima Shoji said. Well, that's also true, the dangerous aura of those two people is about to overflow. Although you are also all black, you obviously don't have their dangerous aura, said the high school detective. This suit was actually given by the elder. Tsushima Shoji said so, and saw the figure of vodka running past the three of them. Kudo Shinichi followed without hesitation. Shinichi. Looking at the hand that Mao Lilan stretched out but grabbed nothing. Tsushima Shoji blinked. Then, see you first, Miss Mori, and look forward to seeing you next time. Okay. Mao Lilan suddenly returned to God. After sitting in the car and waiting for a long time, a black gin and a black vodka appeared. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. What happened to the detective? He knew the end of the other party, but he still asked. How do you know what we did to him? I watched vodka run past him, and then the Sherlock Holmes chased after him. Would you let him go? Can't you think about the black-haired boy? Looking at the Jin. Whether he can survive depends on his luck. Jin gave a smile. Tsushima Shoji laughed inwardly. Zendao's family not only survived, but also lived well. They are always blocking you. But what does adding to the Jin have anything to do with Takao? Obviously it doesn't matter. The gentleman has arranged a school for you, and you will go to school tomorrow. In the silence, Jin said. Go to school? Are you joking? Daiguang Middle School. Qinju added. Co-author not only Conan, but also Team Rainbow? The world is not getting better, there is no way to save it. Ask a question. He raised his hand like a good student. Say. Can I apply for a driver? If you can't decide, I'll find my father tomorrow. The driver will pick you up. Jinju agreed decisively. Okay, thank you very much. Today is another happy day. Tsushima Shoji happily got out of the car at the door of the apartment. At the same time, the shrunk Kudo Shinichi appeared at Dr. Akaza's house. My name is Conan. Edogawa Conan. At 4:30 in the morning, I saw the begonia flower. Osamu Dazai was still awake. He was lying on the bed, covering his left eye with one hand, and staring at the empty place with his right eye in a daze. Why should I go to junior high school again? Host, you haven't been to school since you appeared in this world, the system said in a distressed tone. The boss of the black organization actually won't let you go to school. It was outraged. This. In fact, the adoptive father had found a tutor for him, but... Start the memory root. The young boy was wearing a small suit, sitting obediently in his seat, raising his hand from time to time. Teacher, your answer is wrong. Teacher, there are 3 other solutions to this problem. Teacher. Teacher, why is the teacher's level so poor, and you can come to be my teacher? The boy said this sentence with a dazed expression. The tutor broke the defense on the spot, covering his face and crying. It's my fault. My level is not worthy of being the teacher of the young master, please let me go. No, please find another teacher. So the tutor ran away crying. Boss. He fixedly stared at the boy with a naive expression and behaved badly, and sighed. So there are no governesses anymore. That boss took Dazai Aji around the world, including the legendary Hawaii. Memories end. I didn't expect that father still didn't give up. The boy turned over. Should I say it's good that Daiguang's uniform is not ugly? If the green uniform of the entire PK Academy. Cao Wine betrayed the organization on the spot, crossed out, he checked it carefully last night. In this world, there are no superpowers, and there is no such thing as Kexu. Although there are Keishues small tennis, small basketball, small volleyball, sprint, and figure skating. Except for Conan, everything else is a safe daily exercise. /vibration. Student, it's a good disguise, if the host does nothing at your age, you will be suspected. The system said bitterly. No, aren't there a lot of dead houses who dropped out of school here in Neon? What's wrong with one more of me? Tsushima Shazi was arrogant. You're right, the boss doesn't listen, the next one the vicissitudes of the system are lighting cigarettes. Shoji Tsushima. He couldn't refuse it at all. Daiguang's school uniform is white suit trousers and light blue shirt and black tie. Once this suit is put on. What's the matter with this feeling of being a weak and melancholy prince? Is this really a character that Dazai Osamu can have? Use your COS strength, host, and arrange a perfect character for the transfer student. The tone of the system is flat and unwavering. Okay, then let's the sick and depressed prince. He said, the muscles on his face relaxed and his expression adjusted. When he raised his head again, the melancholy between his brows and eyes was about to overflow, and his body was haunted by the impatience of illness, a kind of fragility and nervousness that strayed from the world. Isn't that DKZ? He can. Kozer cannot say no. Jin really arranged a driver for him. And a person in a suit who looks like a handsome old housekeeper. This old butler looks a little familiar. Welcome back to Tokyo, Master Shuji. Knowing that you are all right, Mrs. and Mrs. must be very happy. Oh. Thinking about it, I didn't look at the two corpses in front of him that day. I didn't look at it carefully at the time. Now I think about it, there was actually a painting in the hall. The boy who came out was Shuji Tsushima. The system deeply hides merit and fame. Long time no see, Grandpa Tanaka. The boy lowered his long eyelashes and spoke softly. What's wrong with your eyes? The old butler looked at the young master's left eye, which was wrapped in bandages, as well as his neck and exposed left hand. Tsushima Shuji, can I say that I don't have any problems at all? It's just an accident. The boy stood in the dark facing the light, looking frivolous and illusory. Please get in the car. The old butler seemed to want to say something, but finally stopped. He just stepped forward and opened the car door for him, and stood aside waiting for him to get in the car. After Tsushima Shuji got into the car naturally, the old butler closed the door and got into the co-pilot himself. Tisk tisk tisk, corruption, corruption, the system suddenly complained. This is corrupt? Isn't there a more corrupt scene when you are with that gentleman? Tsushima Shuji asked. I have to say that the organization in black in his world is a real bull. It doesn't matter if there are research institute bases all over the world, they control the regimes of small countries, and they are even behind the transfer of power in big countries. It's really not just talking about being rich enough to rival a country. In some countries, Shuji Tsushima accompanied the father and enjoyed the treatment of the king and the crown prince. Tisk. Hey, did you hear that? There's a new transfer student coming to our class today. It's been so long since school started. Is there any problem? Really, how can you think of others like that? Hopefully a handsome guy. Then I hope to be a beauty. A class is talking about the upcoming transfer students. Dong dong dong, quiet. The head teacher of Mediterranean Sea tapped on the podium. Tsushima-san, please come in. After seeing that the students were all quiet, he turned to face the door. That was an incredible beautiful boy. He wore the same school uniform as them, but he was obviously more handsome and extravagant. He looked very sickly, the bandages were wrapped around his left eye all the way to the wrists of both hands, and white bandages were attached to the knuckles of the 10 fingers of both hands, and only a small half of his right face and right eye were exposed from top to bottom. Sickness and fragile delicacy that fills the realm of fantasy. First meeting, I'm Shuji Tsushima. He took the chalk and wrote the words Shuji Tsushima on the blackboard, turned around and said to the boy and girl below. After a while, scattered applause rang out. Tsujimagung, your seat is the last one by the window. Remembering what the teacher in charge of the Mediterranean said, Shuji Tsushima walked silently to the last seat by the window. The place was already filled with teaching materials, and there was a satchel and a bento in the drawer. He took out his bag and rummaged through it. There were 4 or 5 pens and inks that he often used, as well as other things that he wouldn't think to bring. Hey, why did Tsushima-kun take so long to transfer after school started? Someone leaned in front of him and asked. With short brown hair and fair complexion, he is a JK who can score 6 points. Because I was treated abroad before, I only returned to China a few days ago. Hey, is Tsushima-kun ill? It's just a small problem, thank you for worrying. Nah, Tsushima-kun. Almost all the girls in the class ran around his position to ask for help. It caused dissatisfaction from the other boys. What? It looks like a sick seedling that is about to die. That's right, a soft guy, these girls are really not picky. You can only make the little girl sympathize with this image. Tsushima Shoji, who had a very clear sense of malice, had a dark look in his eyes. Compared with the small group he was already familiar with, Tsushima Shoji, as an individual who suddenly intervened, is not normal to cause other people's dissatisfaction. Rather, he was looking forward to seeing what that group of people could achieve. At noon, he came to the rooftop alone with a bento. Originally, the rooftop belonged to the exclusive domain of the Miracle Generation in the Daiguang Basketball Club. After graduation, the generations of miracles went their separate ways, and others didn't bother to run to the rooftop, so the rooftop was completely empty. Gave him a quiet and lazy place. Yo xi, skip class this afternoon. He thought so, laying lazily on the rooftop and closing his eyes. The classroom on the other side. Hey, Ito, it's not good for us to do this. Shut up, Ishii, we just gave that kid a warning. Hey, if you dare to talk nonsense with that kid, don't blame me for being rude. The man named Ito turned around and threatened the others. He couldn't wait to see that kid cry. However, Tsushima Shoji didn't show up for a whole afternoon. It wasn't until 5 minutes before school that he returned to the classroom slowly. Under the quietly cast eyes around him, he stood beside his seat. In the morning, it was still a brand new desk. At this moment, it was full of dazzling ink marks, and the corpses of brand new pens were scattered here and there. To be honest, Tsushima Shoji's thinking now is, this is this. The people sitting around the transfer student seemed to hear the transfer student sigh slightly. The moment the teacher on the podium said that school was dismissed, the transfer students also spoke. Sorry, you may be able to leave later, he said. Hey? Why? When something goes wrong with you, why should everyone waste time with you? Stay here and wipe it slowly, transfer student. A gentle-looking boy mocked. Then, can you tell me, who did it? The transfer student sighed and said helplessly. Some people looked away and dared not look at him. Some people looked dazed. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com is furious. We don't know, don't we? The boy asked in a high voice. Yes, we didn't see anything. We don't know anything. Did you hear it? Let's go when you hear it clearly. The boy said maliciously. If you can't find out who did it, you can only call the police. Everyone can't leave here until the police show up to find that person. Tsushima Shoji took out his cell phone. Hey, true or false? You actually want to call the police? The boy had an incredible expression. The Kale Andy fountain pen is limited to 1,140 pens in the world. The issue price of a single pen is $40,000, and the market price is $100,000. Here, there are 5 damaged pens. According to the market price, it is $500,000. In addition to the damaged bag and ink, the value is nearly $100,000. $1 million, this amount is enough to file a case for investigation. Tsushima Shoji said calmly. Hey! These things are $1 million? Who believes? The gentle boy was sullen. Immediately after, another boy next to him tugged at his clothes, picked up his mobile phone and motioned for him to look. The information and price of the pen are clearly displayed. At that time, his face was pale. Next time you do something bad, don't act like that, this. Ida-san. Well, are you going to go to jail, or are you going to apologize to me? Yes. I'm sorry. Hey? If you apologize, you have to look like you're apologizing. Kneel down and give me wong wong twice. I might forgive you. 10. I'm very sorry. Wang. Wang Wang. Good, good, good. At the gate of the school, a black Bentley was already parked by the roadside, and the butler in a suit saw Shoji Tsushima and hurriedly opened the car door. Master Zaihuzi. Tsushima Shoji nodded. Sure enough, Tsushimakan is the eldest young master. A classmate who passed by said with emotion. No wonder we are like people from two worlds. It's similar to Akashi Senpai. Akashi Sejuro, the head of Tiako's basketball department, the captain of the Generation of Miracles, is also a well-known imperial officer. Watching the black Bentley gradually go away, they whispered. Token, wait for me. The boy stumbled while holding 2 school bags. Follow up quickly, you bastard. The gentle boy made a vicious expression that didn't match his appearance and scolded. Ah la la, it's ITO again, it's too much, I hate it. A girl who saw it couldn't help but whispered. SHH, he will hear it, it will be miserable then. The friend immediately took her hand to persuade. It's useless to kneel down and beg Tsushimakan to let him go. The girl's voice drifted away. Master Zaihuzi, here we are. Following the soft call, Shoji Tsushima opened his eyes. Outside is a familiar apartment complex. Excuse me, he said. Master Shazi, the old house of the Tsushima family is waiting for you at any time. When the boy was about to enter the apartment, the still elegant old housekeeper bent down and said. I see. Let me see where the dog food I bought last time. Ah, found it. Host, when you buy dog food, you don't want to, you can't die alone when you're alone. Sacrificing love, I found it. Tsushima Shoji squatted at the door of someone else's house with the dog food in his arms. Through the fence, he shook the dog food in his hand towards the Akita Inu who was sitting quietly inside. Look at what this is, super luxury special dog food. Dang 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 woo. Wow. Akita dog frantically wagged his tail. Hey, do you want to eat? The boy opened the package, took out a handful of dog food, and shook it in front of the Akita Inu. Then he stuffed it into his mouth. The Akita dog, wagging its tail wildly, was instantly stiff, as if it had turned into a grey-white stone statue. I won't give you food, take a short walk. Not only will I not give it to you, but I will also eat it in front of you. The young man proudly stuffed another handful of dog food into his mouth, and muttered with his cheeks puffed up. That big brother, is that the big brother we met at the amusement park last time? A girl's voice came from the side. It seems so. What is that big brother doing? He seems to be eating dog food. Hey! Really? Is big brother unable to eat? It's so pitiful. Mitayuan, Mitsuhiko, Conan, let's invite big brother to dinner. Okay. Big brother, let's invite you to dinner. He happily stuffed the last handful of dog food into his mouth, and looking at Akita with a grey heart like a dead grey, Osamu Dazai burped happily. Just saw a little girl and 3 little boys running over, saying they wanted to invite him to dinner. Hey? Treat me to dinner? Okay, I haven't tried to hold myself to death yet. The black-haired boy clapped his hands happily. Isn't this the little sister I met at the amusement park last time? We met again. The boy stood up and patted his clothes. What was the big brother doing just now? Mitsuhiko asked. The boy thought while resting his chin in one hand. Big brother, I'm teaching that stupid dog what it means to be a dog. If you don't listen to the master's words and bark, you will have no dog food to eat, the young man explained seriously. Provoked a rainbow fart from 3 real elementary school students. As Kudo-shin once had a relationship with the other party, Conan fell into silence. Hey, it's obviously your bad taste. Actually grabbing dog food from the dog. Who was Shoji Tsushima, who was excellent in reasoning calmly back then. Moreover, even children are fooling around. Well. The black-haired boy touched his pocket and took out a wallet. I haven't lost my wallet today. Big brother invites you to dinner. He looked at the wallet still in surprise and said. Okay. I want to eat eel rice. Conan, haha. This kid looks a little different from other kids. In the Japanese food store, the black-haired boy looked at the little boy in blue suit, red bow, and glasses. Ahaha. How can Big Brother think so? Edogawa Conan touched his head and began to laugh awkwardly as a primary school student. Conan is like that. Ayami said aside. That's probably because Big Brother feels wrong. The black-haired boy put his hands on his cheeks and said in Conan's tone. When paying the bill, the other party took out a black card from his wallet, and the sharpied Conan even saw another row of black cards. Conan, hey, what are you doing? Is this guy the male version of Sonoko Suzuki? Then, goodbye, little classmates. Goodbye, Big Brother. The host doesn't tell Jin, is Kudo Shinichi still alive? The system is bubbling. Who said that? Of course I have to tell him that I am not an undercover or a traitor. Tsushima Shuji hummed softly. But it's not now, some things, it's boring to say it too early, said Kahor, the real wine of the organization. I found an interesting experiment. Can I keep him? Kahor having said that, he still sent a text message to the boss who was far abroad. It didn't take long for a reply to be received. As long as you want. Humph, even if Jinju knew that I hid the information, he wouldn't be able to say anything. This is what the boss promised himself. Thinking of the aggrieved appearance that the other party might appear, Shoji Tsushima smiled proudly. The next moment, his expression changed. Yuck! I'll never, don't try to eat to kill myself. Vomit. Host. Are you okay? The system is frightened. It's too bad. The boy had black clouds all over his body, and his tone was harsh. Just one day after going to school, Shuji No. 2 Tianjin Island took a leave of absence. One request is a week off. In fact, I went to the hospital for gastric lavage on the first day. The next day I wanted to commit suicide by sinking into the bottom of the tank, but I twisted my waist. On the third day, I grabbed another patient's medicine in the hospital and ate a bottle in one go. He was sent for gastric lavage again. On the fourth day, he made an appointment with the patient to burn himself to death with smoke. As a result, the patient gave up and called the doctor to come over. On the fifth day, it was finally normal, and Jin came to his door and beat him up. Although I can play Jin, but it's not that I'm too lazy to play. So I could only be beaten unilaterally. Jin didn't even attack his head and vulnerable parts, even his limbs were almost cut off. So I can only go to school honestly. The listeners are simply sad, and the listeners cry. Let's talk about Daiguang's side. Since Shoji Tsushima asked his classmates to kneel in front of him and apologize in front of the whole class, and learn to bark, almost everyone kept away from him. Can't be provoked, can't hide. Even if the other party didn't come for a week, many people felt relieved. Of course, there are also people who are waiting for Shoji Tsushima to come to the school, waiting eagerly. At noon that day, Shoji Tsushima was still enjoying his leisure time on the rooftop. And in the abandoned warehouse on the other side. Someone is dying. Mozamoxi, Itoken. Someone answered the phone. Hey Yamashita, where's the bread I asked you to buy? Come over quickly. Yes, I'll be there soon. It's Ito again, that guy, he's really arrogant. I said, Yamashita, you are just too used to him. I can't help it. After all, Itoken is my friend since childhood. The boy wearing glasses said shyly. Boom. Itoken. Hey, what's going on? Quickly call the police. In the abandoned old warehouse, the equipment was placed in a mess, and the young man who had called them not long ago was now tied to a post, as if repenting. The dagger inserted deeply into his chest. The rays of the setting sun turned away from him, like a silent oil painting. The police arrived quickly and sealed off the scene. Have all the people related to the deceased arrived? That, and another, the transfer student isn't here. Someone raised his hand hesitantly. Is there another one? Where has he gone? It should be on the rooftop, right? The boy said in an uncertain tone. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Others in the class also whispered to pass. Hey, could it really be Tsushima who killed Ito? Who knows, after all, Ito offended him before, and as soon as he came to school today, Ito was killed. Very scary. The absent classmate had a dispute with the deceased. A police officer stepped forward and asked. Yes, it is. Ito destroyed Tsushimakan's things before, and Tsushimakan even asked him to kneel down and learn to bark and apologize. Kneel down and learn to bark and apologize. The policeman frowned. This is too bad. Yes, because Tsushimakan's things are very expensive and Ito can't afford to pay, so I just did it. Ah, it's the rich eldest young master. The policeman thought to himself. There seem to be quite a lot of people who decide to kill each other because of this kind of identity. Go to the rooftop and bring that Tsushimakan. Inspector Mumu said so. So Shoji Tsushima, who was enjoying the afternoon tea life leisurely on the rooftop a second ago. The next second, the door to the rooftop was broken into by the police, and the pistol was aimed at him. Don't move. There is a murder case here that requires your cooperation in the investigation. Looking at the few policemen who are facing the enemy. Tsushima Shoji? This is the legend that people sit on the rooftop and the pot comes from the sky? He just wanted to enjoy his afternoon tea time quietly. Why is it related to the murder case? Tsushima repairs the grievances are huge. The deceased, Ito Neruya, male, 15 years old. It was discovered that Akito Yamashita received a call from the other party before Ito Neruya died. The suspect, Shoji Tsushima, was alone on the rooftop at the time of the incident, and he did not have an alibi. Speaking of which, the little brother who reported the case couldn't help but look at Shoji Tsushima, who was standing alone. He was so calm, as if he didn't care that he was suspected of being the murderer. She also didn't care at all about the suspicious and fearful eyes from the surrounding classmates. He just stood there with dark eyes, as if he was out of tune with the people around him. Yamashita looked at him. In fact, he was not the only one looking at each other. Others were more or less looking at each other. Then they heard him say. So troublesome. Why aren't those detectives here? It's a waste of time. The young kite's right eye was full of fatigue and impatience, and there was an irresistible temperament. Don't waste your time, officer. The boy stood there, his voice clear and impatient. The nervousness between the eyebrows and eyes became more and more obvious. The murderer is you, Yamashita Kairen. He said so. What are you talking about, Tsushimakan? Ito and I are friends who grew up together. Yamashita Akito retorted with a flushed face. Hey? So it's a friend? Isn't it a little brother in a punching bag? The boy with the lingering bandages on his body raised his tone and seemed to be surprised. Akito Yamashita clenched his fists. This dagger is really accurate, it's like an archer with 100 hits. Tsushima Shoji said in confusion. Akito Yamashita trembled uncontrollably. However, Yamashita-kun wasn't there at all when the incident happened. And I also received a call from Ito. Someone retorted. No, can't the phone be faked? Can't you record it? You have found Ito Neruya's cell phone. Tsushima Shoji's expression was exaggerated, and his tone was too exaggerated. This kind of method of providing yourself with an alibi is too simple. He was dismissive. Do you have any evidence? Someone asked back. There is no evidence, everything is nonsense. Yamashita Kairen retorted. The evidence is clearly in front of you. Tsushima Shoji said. To him, the motive for the love murder was simply too simple, but no one around could see it. Don't these police officers not do things without detectives? The things in this warehouse are murder tools. Why didn't the murderer take the dagger from the deceased's chest? It's very simple, because he can't do it, that's right, Akito Yamashita classmate. He suddenly turned his head and stared at Akito Yamashita, who was beside him with his kite-colored right eye. Although you used the fitness equipment in the warehouse to make a trap, tied Ito Neruya to a fixed position in advance, and successfully used the trap to kill Ito Neruya with a dagger, but in order to seek an alibi, you have no chance to use the dagger at all. Take it away. As for the evidence, Ito Neruya's cell phone, and the remote control device you arranged are still with you. Why don't you show everyone, whose cell phone is yours? Tsushima Shoji said confidently. Akito Yamashita squeezed the phone tightly and didn't say a word. As for the motive for the murder, I also know clearly you and Ito Cheng also grew up together since childhood, but you are not friends. When Ito Cheng also beat you, you should have been quite hard. Tsushima Shoji said this, his tone seemed to be sympathetic, listening carefully. I think too much. This sentence sounds obviously sarcastic. That guy. Yamashita Kairen's phone fell to the ground. Tears splashed drop by drop on the dusty floor of the warehouse. That guy, Neruya Ito, doesn't treat me like an adult at all. He suddenly raised his head, even though he was crying, his expression was still fierce. Full of disgust. It'd be nice for guys like him to be dead. He said. Ming Ming. Obviously I have repeated the experiment thousands of times. Obviously I checked it myself, this will be a perfect crime. Your only mistake is to involve me and want me to take the blame for you. The boy in the white uniform said. In my opinion, your mistake is too obvious. He seemed to be standing in the light, but the light couldn't illuminate him. Yamashita Akito finally collapsed on the ground and was put on a silver bracelet. The next day, on the front page of the newspaper, a picture of Shoji Tsushima was displayed impressively. Taiguang's high school detective Tsushima Shoji. The young detective who sees through the heart. The incredible young detective. Tsushima Shoji. Host, you seem to be on fire, the system stumbled. As a real sake, I actually became a detective. Shoji Tsushima said in a deep voice. Come to Lupin Jin OK Kaor. She took off her white school uniform, put on a black suit coat, and went straight to Lupin. This time, Tsushima Shoji didn't commit suicide halfway. He came to Lupin peacefully all the way. Gin and vodka are still the same shape for thousands of years, as if there is only one set of clothes. Of course, Tsushima Shoji knew that there were at least 30 coats of the same style in the gin wardrobe. Change a set every day, and you won't wear the same set of clothes for a month. And Jin, although he is a killer, he has a cleanliness addiction and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Although when a shark is a shark, he doesn't mind the blood of the other party spraying everywhere, and he doesn't care that the blood sticks to himself. But his clothes that were splashed with blood would be destroyed by him and burned directly to ashes. Under the majesty of his big brother, vodka can only follow in the footsteps of gin. This time, without using gin, the bartender consciously brought a glass of hot milk and placed it next to the gin. Gin, do you think I'm a detective? He stared at the hot milk brought by the bartender and asked seriously. Humph, what? You want to play the detective game? Jin didn't deny it, but just asked. After all, he understands the character of the other party when he thinks about it. It's not impossible to suddenly want to be a detective. Look. The black-haired boy took out a newspaper from his coat. Pointing to the position of the front page to indicate the Jin. You reading www.uuganshu.com. I already am, he said. Jin. His eyes flicked across the newspaper. Looking at the phrase a young detective who can see through the heart, he smiled. Of course, when he laughed, it was like a beast met its prey, with malicious intent and full of killing intent. Have you encountered an incident at school? The silver-haired man asked. Yeah, that murderer still wants to frame me. The young man muttered in dissatisfaction. The evidence is so obvious that I can't even pretend that I can't see it. It's like the bold and extra-large font is in front of you, you can't even see it. The young man ranted. Someone said you're going to be the next Kudo Shinichi. Jin asked. It's really unpleasant. Tsushima Shoji is clearly a member of the organization, born black, how could he become the next detective kid? No, it's fun to play detective games occasionally, let me be the next Kudo Shinichi. Tsushima Shoji shuddered. I'm better suited to be Moriarty than to be Sherlock Holmes, he thought. Also, the last Kudo Shinichi, but he was given medicine by you, and now his life and death are unknown. I don't want to be used as a test by you. He curled his lips. If you really betray the organization, I will kill you myself, said the silver-haired man. Shoji Tsushima, who is regarded as an adopted son by the boss. No matter life or death, it can only belong to the organization. I think it's quite comfortable to be the eldest young master of the organization, and I can call you at will, the black-haired boy said with a smile. Jin. Go away, troublesome brat. I don't seem to be growing up. Tsushima Shoji said in a trance like an epiphany. If the timeline follows Conan. Good guy, how long does he have to study National 3? Tsushima Shoji fell silent. What about his height of 186? He is now 14 years old and 1.7 meters tall. Do you want to be 1 meter 7 all the time? He thought for a while, then went back to the room to find the tape measure. Seriously, she took off her shoes and measured her height. 14 years old, 175. I have to say that he is already very tall among his peers. Well, when he thought that other people would not continue to grow taller, he felt relieved. He lay on the sofa and turned on the TV. It happened to be a show of a popular female idol. Open your shining eyes on that silent night. Impossible night fluttering down. Weak, innocent, and pitiful. Like a swan with pure white feathers. The name displayed on the introduction column on the side is Nanami Lisu. 21 years old, the most popular female idol in the new generation. Ah, that's really good. He said so, and silently changed the station. Women only affect the taste of wine. He said blankly. How high is the status of a detective in this world? Probably, any case can be published in newspapers or on TV. And as a well-known young detective, he will have his own support club in the school. The point. Tsushima Shoji just discovered it. He came to school today, and there was talk about him all around. He hid and listened a few words. No wonder it is. Hey, did you know that the transfer student from Class A in Year 3, Shojikan Tsushima, is a detective? I heard that he solved a case yesterday that the police couldn't solve. Just a casual glance and I found the murderer and the murder tool. Ah, he's really handsome. Does he have a backup club? It seems that we already have it. Hurry up, let's fill out the application form. Shoji Tsushima. I don't know what to say, so say thank you. Speaking of which, Kaito Kid is also very famous. He rubbed his chin and thought. So this group of people likes guys with outstanding ability to be independent. He made a fist with one hand and knocked it on the palm of his hand. Isn't this the host's best field? The system couldn't help but speak. When you have time, let's improve the character design of the next detective, Shoji Tsushima, and the character design of Dazai Osamu Keksu. Shoji Tsushima thought so. Returning to the classroom again, he keenly felt that the attitudes around him had changed again. Admiration, envy, admiration, and so on. There are all kinds of emotions. Being too good is also a problem. He secretly complained to the system in his heart. As long as you are happy, the Buddhist system of the system lies flat. Sujima Gung. How did Tsushimakan find out the truth of the case? Tsushimakan, can you give me an email address? Tsushima Shuji. Everyone is fine, come and save me. I can't bear it anymore. If he is KR now, if he directly kills one person with a gun, the others will naturally be scared away. But now he is the unremarkable high school detective Shuji Tsushima. His character is the young master of a weak family and a neurotic genius. People can't collapse, people can't collapse, people can't collapse. Very good, he is calm again. Because another group of people who rescued him from the sea of misery appeared. Sujimagong hasn't joined the club yet. Do you want to consider our basketball? It doesn't matter. Just as he was about to invite the opponent into the basketball club, he remembered his bandaged left eye and hands, so he hurriedly stopped. Well, a sport like basketball that can easily make people sweat, doesn't feel like Tsushimakan's style of painting, ahahaha. He scratched his head and said embarrassedly. Yeah, I can't imagine Tsushimakan playing basketball. The onlookers nodded in agreement. Basketball club members. I feel that Tsushimakan is suitable for tea art, or elegant interests such as flower arrangement. A girl thought about it and said. Shuji Tsushima, who suits elegant interests, has a dead eye. Actually, I am suitable for sharks, like a headshot from 800 meters away, believe it or not. Anyway, I believed it. Yes, although our school's basketball club is the most famous, others such as tennis, volleyball, and kyudo are good. The monitor explained silently. Why do you have to join the club? Let go of the children. Tsushima Shuji. Not the bourbon next door. Working king. Art bourbon here. The winery is really busy. The gin wine runs 3 times a day. You actually want a real wine who can do a job to go to the club activities? Wait a minute, isn't this a reason to skip class justifiably? Forget about tennis and volleyball, the amount of exercise is too much, Shuji Tsushima can't do it, he can't. Why don't you join the music club? Like the melancholy piano prince Shuji Tsushima? Or the violin? Well, in fact, he can do it too. In the legend, I gave you one eye, and you couldn't beat me? He looks ill with bandages all over his body, but he turns out to be an ace in the Kyudo club. Wow, this contrast! The inner ecstasy of the cozer who madly added a character to himself. Excuse me, where is the application form for the archery department? He pretended not to care. Hey! Tsushimakan is going to join the archery club. A girl covered her mouth and exclaimed. Could it be that Tsushimakan is good at archery? Another girl asked hesitantly. After all, Tsushima Shuji looked too sick. Not to mention the bandages that almost covered his entire body, but just the exposed parts of him. His complexion was pale and bloodless, too thin, and his bones were very obvious. No one can connect such Tsushima Shuji with activities like Kyudo. Facing their doubts, the ill Tsushima Shujikan just nodded. I have had a little exposure to archery before, and I am a little interested in it. He said so plainly. In the past, he organized the father to take him to play and hunt together. His head seems to be pretty good. Then, you are welcome to join our archery club in advance. The members of the archery club looked happy. If it's convenient, please come to the club activities classroom with me after school. Even if Shuji Tsushima was not strong enough, the minister would not let him go. After all, with him around, the Kyudo club can be considered to have a support club. You must know that only the basketball club has a support club for Daiguang. Whenever members of the basketball club compete, the venue is always filled with members of the support club, cheering for them. However, when the Kyudo club competes, it is unknown, deserted, and nobody cares. As the saying goes, there is no pain without contrast. Even if Shoji Tsushima can't even hold a bow, he has to stay in the Kyoto Club. Be a mascot. As for Shoji Tsushima's archery skills? Shunsuke Yamada, a member of the archery club, looked at the other's thin and slender figure. Anyway, he didn't believe that the other party had good archery skills. 10 rings. Another 10 rings. Someone spoke in uncontrollable surprise. Not long ago, Shoji Yamada, who believed that Shoji Tsushima could not have good archery skills, fell silent. Have you met before? Are you interested? Is this the level of some interest? Yamada Shunsuke, I suspect he is pretending, but I have no evidence. In front of the shooting range, Yu Kanshu www.yuyuganshu.com put on a kung fu costume, a tall and slender youth. The arms that looked slender and thin actually pulled the bow and arrow steadily. Every arrow sunk deeply into the 10 rings. He lowered his arms and lowered his head, wondering what he was thinking. Are you tired? After all, with his body, bows and arrows are also quite a burden to him. A lot of people in the arena thought the same thing. However, the next moment, the boy's lowered hand raised again, raised his head, the kite-colored right eye stared at the target, the bowstring was fully stretched, and an arrow shot through the previous arrow standing at the bullseye. After all, this is to become a god. Yamada Shunsuke thought so. Sure enough, everyone's exclamations and discussions sounded in the arena. Okay, it's amazing. Tsushima-kin. Please be sure to join our archery club. Yamada Shunsuke raised his head and looked at the bright lights at the top of the stadium. I'm so stupid, really. The head of the archery department almost abdicated to give up the position and let Shoji Tsushima become the head, but the other party always refused. In desperation, the head of the archery department reluctantly sent people to the school gate while saying that he was not worthy of being a headmaster. The other members also followed him to the school gate. It seemed that Shoji Tsushima, who was in the lead, was more like the head of the archery department. With Tsushima-kin's words, our Jikoku Archery Club, the national competition, must have our place. At the school gate, the head of the archery club held Shoji Tsushima's hand and said sincerely, Tsushima Shoji. So there is still a national competition? Why do you feel that my organization is a real drinker and always doesn't do anything? Kyoto Art Museum. Elementary school student Edogawa Conan walked out of the museum with his classmates and members of the Future Boys detective team. Wow, these look so good. It's great. Hey, wait, look. Who is that? Ayami Yoshida pointed at the tree next to the art museum in surprise. A figure like a hanged ghost swayed with its tongue out. It seems that life and death are unknown. Quick, save people. Edogawa Conan panicked. Hey, if this guy hangs up again, he's not dead now, he's going to die. The 4 people hurriedly rescued the person. The moment the person whose life and death were unknown fell to the ground, he jumped up and down. It hurts, HS. It hurts. The familiar, bandaged boy rubbed his neck and said. It's Tsushima-san. Ayami said. It's the big brother who invited us to dinner last time. Mitsuhiko and Yuanta also recognized the person. What was big brother Tsushima doing just now? Ayami asked curiously. I know this. It's performance art. Mitsuhiko said confidently, and was then admired by the other 2. Tsushima Shoji stood up and patted his clothes. Following his movements, a book fell out of his arms. A certain elementary school student picked it up curiously and took a look. The Complete Suicide Manual. Edogawa Conan. Hey, no, are you a suicide lover like Osamu Dazai? Suddenly, he fell into thought again. Recalling the last time we met, Shoji Tsushima ate up a whole bag of dog food in front of the Akita. When Ayami said he wanted to invite him to dinner, what did Shoji Tsushima say? I haven't tried the dying method of dying. Probably something like this. Hey, he's actually a suicide lover. A certain detective elementary school student died with fish eyes. Ah, it's you. Shoji Tsushima patted off the dust on his coat like no one else was around, and when his eyes were no longer dizzy, he turned his attention to a few elementary school students. At the same time, he complained in his heart, my suicide method that fits my personality, wouldn't it really be cool? When the host committed suicide in COS Dazai Osamu, there was a buff. No matter how you commit suicide, you will never die. The system is proud. Tsushima Shoji, if I were really Dazai, I might be off by this buff. However, he is just an ordinary COS, this buff is more conducive to his COS character behavior, it is very nice. What a coincidence, I met you again. Tsushima Shoji said, reaching out to take Conan's book. Speaking of art museums, there seems to be an incident where a treasure map was picked up outside the art museum. As soon as he thought about it, he saw a note that floated and fell to Conan's feet. Tsushima Shoji. System, send a text message to Jin in my name. Ask him if he is interested in the 15,000 gold coins of Tino Cabana. After all, it's worth 600 million yen, so Jin shouldn't mind more money for activities. The last time the amusement park was only 100 million. Tsushima Shoji thought so in his heart. The elementary school students on the other side have happily formed a juvenile detective team, eager to follow the treasure map to find the treasure. Speaking of this treasure location, Shoji Tsushima has some impressions. Take over the monitoring of this area, search for the location where the fish-shaped neon lights can be seen from the reflection in the river at night, and send them to the Jin together. Alright, host. The system works hard without complaint. As for why the system sent text messages for him, he couldn't have texted Jin in front of the Shinigami primary school students. Hey, Tsushima-san wants to find treasure with us. A child's cute voice came from his ear. At the same time, Shoji Tsushima felt that the corner of his clothes was being pulled. This voice. He lowered his head, facing the innocent smiling face of Edogawa Conan classmate. Sure enough, it's you, Kudo Shinichi. After thinking for a while, he simply reached out and picked up a certain fake primary school student. Conan is acting like a spoiled child to me, okay, if Conan wants it. He smiled like a kind big brother who takes care of children with empathy. Ah ha 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 ha, yes, yes. Edogawa Conan, who was caught off guard, responded with the innocent smile and voice of an elementary school student in a conditioned reflex. At the same time, the hearts of the two people. Shoji Tsushima, wow, disgusting, I actually said such disgusting words. Edogawa Conan. Really, Conan, you are so old, boys can't be so coquettish. Ayami disagreed. That is to say, Conan, you can't do this. Yuan-tai and Mitsuhiko agreed. Conan, who is stared at by three real elementary school students with disapproving eyes. Kudo Shinichi, oh, I'm really sorry. I know. Not next time. Edogawa Conan embarrassedly touched the back of his head. Then, let our young detective team take Big Brother Tsushima to find the treasure on the treasure map. Youth detective team, let's go. I'm looking forward to it, little detectives. Behind them, the three figures glanced at each other and followed without hesitation. A Porsche 356A parked on the side of the road. Jin opened his phone. Are you interested in Dino Cabana's gold coins? Or such a sentence is displayed on the screen. If you are interested, go to this place to get it. The address is on the floor of the building. The gold coins are hung from the ceiling. Or brother, is it news from Cow? Vodka asked naively. Jin didn't answer, just casually lit a cigarette and took a deep breath. The sound of the radio came from outside the car. It is reported that the 15,000 maple leaf gold coins robbed by the Italian robber group have not been found yet, and the three gangs of Cabana are still lurking in our country. Vodka, drive and get the treasure that belongs to the organization. he said with a sneer. Even if this treasure originally belonged to Cabana, when it was discovered by Ka, it was something of the organization. The black-clothed organization will not refuse anyone who comes, and no one should try to steal anything from them. The juvenile detective team on the other side was in trouble and encountered the first obstacle on the treasure hunt. Oro, what is it? I see. The first O is a big O, the R is the R of rich, and the last O is the O of treasure. Mitsuhiko explained. Tsushima Shoji didn't say a word. After all, it took time for gin and vodka to get the gold coins. What if he let Conan and the others know the answer in advance, and he went early and ran into 2 bottles of wine? He could only pretend that he was a wooden man. But a certain elementary school student didn't want to let him go. Hey, what does Tsushima-san think? Oro means. Ah, the familiar feeling of being ripped off. To meet the face of a certain elementary school student, Shoji Tsushima looked leisurely, reading www.yuyuganshu.com smiled maliciously. Did Conan ask to help the big brother? But as a detective, you should decipher it yourself, right? Yes, Conan, you can't rely on big brother Tsushima all the time. We are the detective boys, said a few other elementary school students. But Tsushima-san is also a detective, right? I've seen the newspaper where Tsushima-san was deducing. Conan said as if embarrassed. Hey? Tsushima-san is also a detective. The others said in surprise. I can't see it at all. I feel that Tsushima-san is not very reliable as a detective. The 3 whispered. Well, even though the sound was so small that everyone around could hear it. Shoji Tsushima. There's no way, then I'll give you a little hint. The boy looked helpless when he took them. Speaking of treasures, the easiest thing to think of is the maple leaf gold coin hidden by the Italian bandit group. He pointed to the news on the side. And in Italian, oro means gold, he said. Well, it's all just a random guess by me, and it's not necessarily a treasure of gold coins. He imitated the tone of a certain elementary school student, sticking out his malicious way. Edogawa Conan, no, I think your guess might be right. And the other members of the juvenile detective team also looked convinced. Okay. It's a real treasure. Gold coins. Gold coins. A lot of eel rice. Tsushima Shoji, you guys are suspicious. This symbol is the Iron Tower. Then what is this moon? 3 real elementary school students and 1 fake elementary school student had a heated discussion about treasure maps. Tsushima Shoji stood aside like a large ornament. Tsushima Shoji, I'm just a melon eater with no emotions. He just followed them without saying a word. Then I heard someone's genius idea. This is a hat. This is underwear. Umbrellas can also connect people to sweaters. So yes, a clothing store. The 3 elementary school students suddenly realized. Tsushima Shoji? He watched helplessly as 3 real primary school students and 1 pseudo-primary school student rushed to the underwear store. He could only stand at the door and watch them rummaging around in the store. The customers in the store looked at them in panic. Tsushima Shoji thought it was the limit for them to rummage through the pile of clothes like this. Until they opened the fitting room curtain. You bastards, get away from me. Then they were thrown out the door carrying their clothes. Don't come again in the future. You are not welcome here. The 4 people who endured the iron fist of justice in several clothing stores in a row suddenly fell into a state of malaise. Tsushima Shoji, I don't understand, but I'm shocked. He can understand the 3 elementary school students doing this. But why did you follow them in? Kudo Shinichi. Shoji Tsushima looked inexplicably at the 4 people who were thrown at the door, especially the one in the blue suit. Edogawa Conan, what's the matter with this chilling feeling? He looked around, and happened to meet a kite-colored eye. Ah ha ha ha, Big Brother Tsushima has been waiting for us outside. He asked, pretending to be stupid. This guy's eyes don't seem to be interesting, but they have a peculiar lethality. Well, after all, where you children can go, I'm not too embarrassed. The boy wearing his black suit coat said so at the moment. His pale face showed a blush at the right time. Just kidding, if I go in, it's not just you who will be thrown out now. Jin might be going to the bureau to lead me. At the thought of being perverted and sent to the police station on the spot, and then when the police asked to contact the guardian, they called Jinju. Hello, your child has had a bad influence by peeping at women in the lingerie store. Can you come to the police station? Then Jin went straight to the police station with a gun. I just don't know whether it was Shoji Tsushima who was cool first, or whether the police station was directly bombed. It's also possible that Jin doesn't care about him at all. Tsushima Shoji can only squat in a pitiful situation by himself. Just thinking about it, I can't help but sing a song behind bars. Tsushima Shoji, thank you, I'm still young, I don't want to go to that place where food and shelter are provided for free and waste social resources. People can't, at least they shouldn't. Edogawa Conan didn't expect the other party to answer like this. Seeing the blushing on the boy's face that didn't seem like a fake, the famous detective fell silent. Ah ha ha ha, yes, that's right, it makes sense. There was a scene of elementary school Conan's embarrassing laugh. Damn! What exactly do those symbols mean? Well, after running for so long, everyone must be tired. Why don't you find a place to eat? I'll treat you. The black-clothed boy waved his wallet. Great! Sushimasen, Saijo. When the other three were eating and drinking, the elementary school students who were serious and earnestly trying to solve the puzzle were particularly noticeable. He even wrote a whole paper of ideas. Tsushima Shoji, although I don't understand it, I admire it very much. As expected of Sherlock Holmes in the Heisei era, the famous high school detective Kudo washing machine. Looking at Conan, who was thinking hard, Shoji Tsushima was about to say something when the phone in his pocket vibrated slightly. Well done! Jin-o, as soon as I saw the news, I knew that the gin and vodka had already received the gold coins. As expected of a model worker in an organization, KPIs are in charge, and the efficiency is not the same. Cough. He cleared his throat, and after successfully attracting the attention of several elementary school students, he stretched out his fingers and tapped on the table. Is it possible that the symbols drawn on the treasure map are the directions for the route? For example, some conspicuous signboard, or something? He said hesitantly. Signboard. The four elementary school students looked at each other and seemed to understand. Conan even rushed into the street. I see. I found it. It's a signboard in the same shape as the treasure map. Brother Tsushima is amazing. The three elementary school students looked at Shoji Tsushima with admiration. Kudo Shinichi, damn, is this guy's reasoning so powerful? However, when it comes to reasoning, I won't lose to anyone. He thought confidently. He led his elementary school students to run. Tsushima Shoji. Really don't think about what the moon means? As well as. Your legs are so short, why are you running so fast? It turns out that when solving puzzles, all details must be taken into account. Otherwise errors will occur. For example, now, a schoolboy detective who once again lost a clue. It was because he ignored the moon on the blueprint that he ended up in vain at this moment. The sky was getting dark, and the neon signs on the roadside began to glow. Student Conan, that moon may not refer to the moon seeing the road, but the night. Because if the treasure map is really a maple leaf gold coin robbed by an Italian gang of robbers, Cabana, who is an Italian, wouldn't use the moon to point to Japan's Tsukishima Road. The black-clothed boy panted slightly. Yes. If there are only graphics that can be seen at night. Edogawa Conan muttered to himself. I see. Everyone. Let's go back to where we started. He said. He ran out again in the lead. The other 3 elementary school students quickly followed. Shoji Tsushima. Why are you elementary school students so physically fit? I am old and tired. Brother Tsushima. Come along. Yes, here we come. Destroy it. If I'm not mistaken, the moon refers to night, so the graphics on the treasure map refer to the shape of neon lights that can be seen at night. A primary school student laughed wildly and said proudly. It's really good, you finally solved it. Tsushima Shoji thought to himself, and by the way he was relieved that he didn't have to run around. I spent a period of leisurely walking and watching the scenery. Then everyone stopped again. Strange, it should be here. A neon sign in the shape of a fish. Conan looked around holding a treasure map. Ah, the sparkling water reflects the warm rainbow light. A voice interrupted his thinking. Isn't this what I've been looking for, the river of love in my dreams? The boy in black opened his arms and sang in a hug. Hey, isn't it, at this time? Are you going to commit suicide by jumping into a river in front of the elementary school students? Shin Kudo looked dead with a single look. That. Brother Tsushima, I seem to have found the location of the treasure. He held up the treasure map and tried to stop him. Wait a minute, Conan, I suddenly remembered that I have a very serious thing to do. Go find the treasure by yourself. The black-clothed boy said solemnly. A very serious matter? Is it something more serious than a treasure hunt? The elementary school student asked innocently. That's right, if I didn't find the treasure, I'd feel a pity, but if I missed this, you Tsushima brother and I would regret it to death. He lowered his eyebrows and said with a melancholy look. Hey? Then Tsushima-san, let's do it quickly, don't let yourself regret it. The elementary school students said understandingly. And dragged away the Conan classmate who was trying to stop it. Let's go, Conan, don't cause trouble to Tsushima-san. That would be annoying. Conan classmate who was dragged away without resistance. I had no choice but to call the police first. I hope Shoji Tsushima can persist until the police officer comes. He quickened his pace and came to the floor he was guessing. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows to see the river outside, and the fish-shaped neon lights. If the street lights are used as eyes, it's really in the shape of a fish. Hey? What's been moving in that river? Bume asked curiously. Where is it? That's right there. Ayami pointed to a place in the river. Edogawa Conan silently adjusted the magnification of his glasses and zoomed in on the distant scene. Ah, the man who was thrashing in the river. I'm just telling you guys that if you don't do something you'll regret to death, Big Brother Tsushima Shoji. Kudo Shinichi, I actually jumped into a river. Someone walked out of the darkness and picked up the gold coins that had fallen on the ground. I'm really bothering you, little boy. Let go, that's the treasure we found. Yuan Tai stepped forward to resist. The next second, he was beaten by Fatty, and the 4 of them were neatly and sat in a row. Kudo Shinichi, damn, it's a gang of Italian robbers. The other 3 had already begun to imagine how they would die. Frightened by her own imagination, she cried and cried. Have you just given up? If we partner, we can still escape. We are the detective boys, aren't we? The boy in the blue suit has a calm appearance and a serious tone. And Kudo Shinichi looked at the direction of the river in the distance. The person who was throbbing in Zhenghuan stopped moving, and the water surface returned to calm. For some reason, he just thought that Shoji Tsushima could find out that something was wrong with them. Maybe it's the confidence in the opponent's reasoning ability. The sound of the police car rang, startling the 3 gangs looking for gold coins. What's the matter? Who called the police? It's now. Run! Conan yelled. Cough cough. The boy who was picked up from the water was pale and dripping water all over his body. Yu reading www.yuuganshu. Com gathered a dark pool of water under his feet. I'm not dead again. He lowered his eyes wearily. Brother Tsushima. You are here. Strange, Tsushima-san is dripping water all over his body. The rescued teenage detectives happily ran to him. Because something fell into the river, when I wanted to pick it up, my foot slipped and I fell into it. The black-haired boy said lightly. Hey, let me tell you, Tsushima-san, we just defeated 3 robbers. Ayami said with a proud expression. But what's hidden there is not a treasure trove of gold coins, but a few bags of stones. Mitsuhiko said regretfully. Damn it, my eel rice. Yuan-tai said angrily. Are you right, Conan? Ayami asked. Ahaha, yes, yes, what a pity. Edogawa Conan said in agreement. However, Kudo Shinichi lowered his eyes. Something is wrong. According to what the 3 gangs said, the treasure map is indeed real, and the maple leaf gold coins should be hidden there. Why did it turn into stone? Did someone come here and take it before them? Conan, let's go home. Come, wait for me. He quickly turned around and chased after him. Pat, the apartment door opened. After taking away the gold coins, replace them with stones and hang them up again. Kaor? Jinwell, give them a little surprise, you can't let others get nothing in vain. Kaor, bad taste. Jinwell, done. Jin.